Welcome back to part 2 of creating a custom static site generator. In part 1 I went over the image generation and also creating thumbnails. In this part I'll be working on the HTML as well as getting the website up and running. And the GitHub repo will be in the comments in case you want to follow along. And if you're a JavaScript developer, backend or frontend, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll keep making more videos like this. Okay, so I made a couple of minor changes after the last video. I decided to add debugging. So what I did was in the launch.json, I went ahead and added this, which is going to allow me just to step through the code with the debugger, which I always set up in every one of my projects, just because debugging with console logs really just takes too much time. I always spend a couple extra minutes just to set up the debugger, and this ends up saving me much more time down the road. So let's look again in package.json. I'm going to look at the scripts. I went ahead and added some build scripts, and these were required for getting the debugger set up. The building of the HTML, I'm just going to use Babel Node just to keep things a little bit simple. This is just a small personal project, so we don't have to get too crazy about, saying don't run Babel Node in production. Everything in context, and since this is a personal site, this doesn't matter at all. But I did need to actually build this to get the VS Code debugger to work, because Babel Node has an issue with source maps. So the setup's a little bit complicated, but you can just copy and paste it out of the repo, again linked in the comments. Okay, let's start at the beginning in package.json. So here I'm going to be using the build HTML script, which just runs Babel Node on the src build HTML. So I'll run that now, and we should see hello world, and that is because I have the console log hello world. So now we're going to change this to hello React. So I'm going to install React as well as React DOM, and I'm going to import React as well as import React DOM server. And React DOM server is what's going to let us write out the React to a string. Let's get rid of this mess. So now I'm going to say const hello world, and I'm just going to create a basic hello world React application here. So I'll create a component hello world just to make sure that this renders. And I'll say the output of hello world is the React DOM server renderToStaticMarkup, and then I can just put the component right in here. So now that I have the HTML, I should be able to just console log this out. So let's see if we're still working. Oops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. And here's our HTML. So that is working perfectly. So the next thing I'm going to do is create a components directory with our app.js. And I'm going to move hello world in here along with the import, and we'll just call this app. And let's call this React so we know something different has rendered. I'm going to export this again. And now I'm going to import the app. So I'll say app from components app. And now when I render this out, when I render hello world, I'm just going to render out the app. And let's call this, since it's static markup, just call it static markup. Going to run it again. Hello React. Okay, so it looks like our application is rendering from the app. The next thing I'm going to do is check the debugger, make sure this works. Got my static markup here, and I want to look on the side here for static markup. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to stop that and close these windows. And I'm going to open my index.html, which this file is my template that I'm going to be using to create the React application from. Once the React application is complete, I'll just go ahead and delete this HTML file. So one thing I've noticed is I have a doc type up at the top, which I don't think I can render that in React. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to render it within the build HTML. I'm going to create a we'll just say the HTML, and I'm going to use a template string here with the static markup. And I'm just going to add my doc type in here. That'll make things just a little bit more simple. Oops, no, I don't want to exit. I'm going to build the HTML again. Doc type and our H1. Okay, so this is, I think, everything I'm going to need for the build HTML. So now the next piece I'm going to render is my HTML. So the next piece I'm going to render is this HTML element. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a document for this. What I mean is a document element. So I'll just say document.js. Oops, it would help if I created a file and not a folder. Document.js. So I'm going to render something like this. And I'm just going to copy this from here. Of course, this is going to be document. And I can copy this here. The difference is here I'm going to pass in the children because this is not going to be an empty element. I need to be able to render the children in here, and I'm going to need to disable this problem. So I'm going to go into my ESLint RC here and change one of the rules, which is React prop types off, because I just don't care about that one right now. Okay, now we're rendering. So now in my application, I'm going to import the documents and render this whole thing inside of the document. So now I have my HTML doc type as well as my HTML tag here, and my element is safely inside. Okay, what is my next piece? The head. So again, I'm going to create another component here, just called head. And I'm going to copy the whole head from here. Let's see, and it's not auto formatting because of a couple of things. So this isn't valid React. So I got to translate this into a string. So the best way for me to do that is to create it as an object, as a string literal. So this is going to start it, and this will end it. Now if I hit save, it should format. Okay, great. And for the children, I'm going to render the children down here just in case I want to add to the head. I probably won't end up doing that in here, but that's fine. So I know just from React I have to change this char set to a capital S. And I do want to take in a title just to set the title here. Other than that, I think this head is going to be what I want it to be. So I'm going to go into my app where I have my document, and I'm going to set my title here just to see if it outputs. Oh, yeah, it would help if I added that to the head. And we'll run that again. Okay, so here's our doc type HTML. Here's our head, our meta tags. Where is the title? Here we go. I am title, perfect. And down here we still have our React. So what's next? Now that we have our head, let's output our body. Apparently everything's going to be a React element, so just go ahead and copy the same stuff from document into body. We'll just call this body, and I'm going to output this element again with the children. Because this is React, this has to be class name. Now in our app, we can add the body, same way we did the head. The difference is the H1 is going to be inside of it. So here's our body and our H1 is inside. So next I have the container, which is just the outer element of the document. So I'm just container.js. Call that container, and this is the tag we want to use. Okay, so now in our app, I'm just going to create the container. And render it again. Cannot find module container. Okay, so let's see, where did I create this? How did you get down there? And that is why I run everything constantly. Okay, we got our body and we got our div container. Now, where are we? Okay, good. So now we're in the programmatic region where I'm no longer going to be able to just copy and paste because these things have to be generated, like the title, and this text needs to be generated. This is just placeholder text right now. So the first thing I'm going to do, since I see the title in here, I actually do still have to set the title inside of the app. Let's close some of these things. And I'm going to get this metadata from this config.yml. So you can see here, here's my title, here's the description, and then here's all the sections, which each of those sections match up to an images directory. So we'll worry about that in a bit. First, I'm going to worry about the title. That seems like it's going to be the easiest one to tackle. Because this is a YAML file, I need to convert this into a JSON object. To do that, I'm just going to create a config library. So I'm just going to call it config.js. And this is going to import YAML from JS YAML. And let me make sure I do have this imported. Nope. I'm going to say npm y JS YAML. Okay. And I'm also going to need to import fs from fs. So I'm going to say my file name is going to be path.join of dir name, which the directory name is going to be lib. So I need to get out of lib into src and then out one more level into config.yml. So that will look like config.yml. Got to do the same thing with path. And we get the raw file using fs.readFileSync. And I'll just input the file name, and I want it as UTF-8. And now I'll just export the config. Export const config equals YAML.safe-load of the raw file. Okay, now let me import the config here. Actually, I don't want to console log it because I'm going to debug it. So now our config looks like yep, here's our title, here's our description, here's our sections. So now that I have that, I'm actually not going to load it here. I'm going to load it here. And the reason for that is this build HTML is our entry point to the application. It's responsible for rendering the application as well as injecting any dependencies into the application and then also rendering it to the console. Right now we're rendering it to the console. Later on we'll write it to a file. But what I want to do is I want to take this config and then pass it in to the app. This is just good practice in developing React applications to just pass in the dependencies. It makes testing a little bit easier. None of that is really too important here because again, this is just a small personal project. But if you work in larger systems, it's good to do that. So I'm going to take the config and then just jam everything into the app. So in here, I should expect a title to come out, which then I can put right here. So now my title that I'm expecting is going to be this. So let's see when I run it. Okay. Module not found, libconfig. Okay. And that is because I moved the libconfig to here. Okay, where is the title? Oh, there it is. So we're getting closer. We have the title being generated from the YAML file all through React. So let's just keep going. What is next? So let's actually output the title here. For that, of course, I'm going to need a title component. Just going to look like this. Export title. Of course, this is class name. And I'll still need the children, because I'm going to render those here. So now in my head, oh sorry, that's the head title. In the container, run my title here, which is just title. Okay, so no, that is also going to be title. So this is an H1 and it looks like my title. Okay, this is not too difficult. So next is the config.description. So of course, I'm going to create another component. I'm just going to call this one text block, because I'm going to reuse this one for other pieces. So of course I have to import React, export const text block. And what is that going to look like? It looks like it's just a div. And I'll put my children again. Let's import the text block. In the config, it's called description because I'm importing the whole config. I can just add description in the app here, output it here, and I should get our description. let's see, where does it start? There's the div, and Mojo was the friendliest cat. Hey, that's right, he was the friendliest cat. So let's get rid of Hello React, because we're starting to look like a real app now. So now the subtitle is going to be the sections. So what I have here is all these different sections. So I have to enumerate all of these. So I'm going to create a section manager. Let's export that. And for now, we'll just output divs. So in the app, I'm going to import the section manager. And I need that up here too. Okay, and we'll leave it up to the section manager to render all those different sections, which means that I need to have a section. And what does a section contain? A title and content. A title and maybe content. Let's go back to the HTML and let's look what this is. It looks like a subtitle. Okay, so it's an H2. So I'll go into our sections. And this was called title, so we'll just call it title here. And content. Here it looks like we maybe have content. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So let's look and see what this looks like. It's just text, and how are we rendering it in our template? We're not, so we'll figure that out by ourselves. So we'll just say here, if there is content, then we'll just render the content. Okay. Now in our section manager, we need to import our section. And this should receive sections. What I'm going to say is sections.map section. And I'm just going to pass in all of the properties from sections into our section component. Let's see, I have to add a key. Well, let's see what this is. So I'm going to wrap this in a return so I can break it right here. Run the debugger. Nope, don't want to stop there. Sections.map is not a function. Oh, okay, so the sections is an object, and I can probably see that if I set the breakpoint there. Sections is an object. Okay, so I need to break this down into object.entries. which is going to give me a key and then the section itself. So I should be able to use that as the key here. And I'll set 2 breakpoints just to make sure. Okay, and the section is 0. Oh, so it's going through indexes. Okay, let me see what this object looks like. Yeah, that's actually right. So let's see what this looks like. Oh yeah, that's right. It's an array. So we need to destructure this as such. There we go. So our key is Buddha and our section and has content and title. That is what I was looking for. So let's just run this thing and see what happens. Let's see, what error is this? But got undefined. Okay, so where did we go wrong? This is not. So section up. That's supposed to be called section. Now if I hover over this, there we go. Okay, let's put all this back. Let's run the whole thing. Yeah, we got something. Now that's not looking too bad. That's outputting something. So let's see what this is actually outputting. So in my build HTML, I am going to say let's see, here's a dummy HTML. I'm going to overwrite that. So import fs from fs. I'll put file path equals path.join dir name public index.html. Now here, instead of console logging, I'm going to use fs.writeFileSync with our output file path, comma, and our data, which is HTML. Wrote HTML to output file path. Okay. And here is our HTML. I can't tell this is good, so I'll say I'm going to call serve on the public directory. Come on, why is it gotta be so complicated? There we go. Okay, it's outputting something. We got to change the titles. That's what it is. So if I look in this section, let me open up my HTML template again. Go to the subtitle. That's what the subtitle should be. Oh, it is. text. And this should not be. Why does it look the same then? Let me see, is it actually loading the Tailwind? Yes. Okay, let's go to Tailwind CSS. Text to XL. Okay, so I just need to make it a little bit bigger to stand out, that's all. So everything was working. I'm just an idiot. So I'm going to rebuild, reload, and that's better. Okay, perfect. So now the next piece is going to be the images. Just going to be a little bit harder. So in my section manager, I have my sections. Okay, let's load this in the manager. So I'm looking for, I'm going to try and match up the key with the images from the images directory. So those should be in public images, and I'll have one of these directories. So let's see, I'm going to have to import fs in here. Actually, no, I don't want to import fs, I want to import glob. Because what I'm going to do is, in here, I'm going to say files equals path Actually, let's use process.cwd. That'll be a little easier. And then I can say public images JPEG. Let's pull this out to here. So I'll say the image path is going to be here. And then my files, I'm going to call glob.sync. And the pattern I'm going to use is the image path and star JPEG. Actually, no, that's totally wrong. I want to move the files in here because I'm actually going to use the key as part of the image path. So what I want to do is JPEG and key. So what that's going to look like is it's going to take the working directory, public images JPEG, and then look for a directory, which Buddha should be this one. Then it should get all of the files in that directory. So files, we're going to use the image path, and then star dot, it might be a different file name, it's not necessarily JPEG, because I do have some WebP files with a different extension. So I'll just go ahead and do star.star. I don't know what this is going to look like, so let me just run this. Files, oh, I have 101 files, so let's see what that looks like. We've got our public images Buddha as the image path. Yeah, it's picking up files. It's got 101 of them for the Buddha directory. Seems like a lot for that one directory, though. If you say so, I don't remember there being 100 files in there, but it looks correct. Let me run this again and check out that path. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing though is that the files have the full path on it, and that's not going to work in my HTML land. So I need to strip off that full path. Everything up to public. So maybe I do need this. And I'm just going to take the public image path there, and then with files, I'm going to create a map of each file and then trim it. I want to trim off that prefix. So I'm going to say substring of the image path dot length +1. It should be okay. Let's debug again. Okay, this is better. So this is the file path, which is just taking out the JPEG. But I need that JPEG. Yeah, let's just change this to the public path. Public path, and we'll add images JPEG here. Now we can just trim off the public path. Okay, that's better. I want to do one for JPEG and one for WebP. So it's going to be best if I pull this out to a function. So say get files. I don't know what I'm going to pass it yet. I'm just going to return those files. Let's just say I'll pass in a type. Images, type, key. Let's not call this key here, we'll call it section. Now here I can say get files, which is going to take the type, which is JPEG, and then the section, which is the key. I also want the WebP files. Files JPEG, WebP. Okay, let's see if this is correct. So this should be, oh, that's a JPEG, yep. And this should be some WebP. Yes. Okay, that's working. And let's call them images. I'm going to make a config for it instead, because I'm going to pass in that whole config object into the section. Now in my section, I have an images. Okay, let's just do images.jpg .map, because that's an array. And this is an index, so image source equals JPEG. Is that just going to work? Okay, we're going to use index later for the WebP. For now, oh, no, we have an error again. Oh, it's just complaining about a key. Yeah, we'll figure that out in a bit. Pictures. There we go. A lot of frickin' pictures. And one thing I noticed is we need to have our thumbnails too. And with this, I just created another directory in here for the thumbnails. So there's the JPEG and JPEG-T for thumbnails. So that means I should be able to just do this and get all my thumbnails. And then I'm going to go back to my section and map through the thumbnails. I'm going to run again. And there's our thumbnails. Oh, isn't he adorable? There's seriously 101 of these? Oh yeah, a lot of burst shots. Okay. Ah, that little guy. Okay. So now back to our template. This is what I want to render. Ooh, that's a big one. So according to our section, let me just paste it here just so I can get a good look at it. Yeah, that's the next piece. Okay, lots of red, so we're going to replace class for class name. Oh, is this all just complaining about the key? Okay, and what is this complaining about? Oh, HTML4. Got to replace all these things so React is happy. Okay, we're almost there. And since we're using an ID of image1, let me actually replace that with our key. So what do we look like here? Okay, this isn't right. So this is our WebP image. We don't have that right now. But we do have our JPEG. So let's at least get our JPEG working. This is the large size for the WebP. And we don't have the large size for this. And we don't have the large size for that either. So forget it. Okay, cool. Now I've noticed it's all in a line, which it should not be, so that is because this whole flex grid is inside of the map, which is wrong. Oh, it's this one, so I think we can just put this on the outside. mean, that would be nice if that just fixed it. There we go. Now it's looking like a gallery. You don't line up real clean. I'll have to fix the HTML of that later, just as long as this thing renders. Okay, that works good. So now let's get the WebP stuff working. So I have in here, oh, class name. Let's see, did that make a difference? No difference. Okay, so because I have our index, I'm going to be able to reference all of the other images, which I'm hoping they all match. That each index of JPEG T will match the index of JPEG. Not guaranteed that that will actually work, but let's find out. So here we're going to do the images of the WebP and I'm going to grab it by the index. Regenerate our HTML, reload, open a new tab. We're still getting our JPEG. Inspect. Looks like our WebP is here. Oh, what's that? Images, WebPT, Buddha, and then here's the, it's the same one, it does match up. Oh, what's this? Why does that get chopped off? Is there a space in there? This doesn't look like a space. There is a space. Okay, so I'm just going to create something called clean. That's just going to remove that space. So I'll say export const clean equals okay, so clean attribute text, and I'm going to say text dot replace space just going to put a non-breaking space in there. Okay, so import clean attribute from lib clean. It's different. Didn't like that, huh? Okay. Got to use the right encoding. So instead of a non-breaking space, I have to convert this to a %20, which is the character code for a space. back on track. Okay, there's our WebP image. So now I have to clean everything. You get cleaned, and you get cleaned. Okay, now the large images. Okay, these are going to follow the same path here. Let's see, this is the WebP, but not a thumbnail. This is the JPEG. And this is the JPEG again. Well, it looks like they're all matching up. Whoa, what the heck is that? Ah, okay. Gonna have to play with the HTML a little bit. Okay, let's see. I need to go into the, oh, I'm already there, the picture. It said absolute, I'm gonna try fixed. And instead of running it each time, I'm going to start setting up this. Okay, Kitty. Kitty wants to say hi. Say hi, Kitty. Say hi. Hello. Hello. So I'm going to set up NodeMon to just watch the files in the source directory. And whenever they change, it's just going to run the npm run build HTML. So it's going to just make life a little bit easier. What do you want, baby? Go ahead, run around. So now when I go back here, should be able to refresh. And let's see, middle of the page was messing up. Okay, now that's working as expected. Oh, I like that one. Oh, so cute. What a silly boy. What a silly, silly boy. Okay. So now that that's fixed, this is kind of a lot for a single component. I kind of like taking the picture out. So let's do that. Let's go into a picture component. Import React from React. It's getting a lot faster typing that. Let's go const picture. And I have no idea what I'm going to import here. So I need this clean piece. Images. Images, index, no, say JPEG, and WebP. I'll let the section handle all of that stuff. So then in here, I can say this is going to be the WebP version. This is going to be the JPEG and JPEG. Okay, that's pretty clean. I like that better. Okay, import picture from picture. Now I should be able to replace all of these pictures with my picture. let's do, let's see, is class name on both of them? Because I want to do this picture here too. Ooh, the class names are different. Okay, so let's do just a bunch of attributes coming in, and we will say attributes. So that way, in the picture, I can say class name, and I don't need that. Let's see, this is the WebP, and this is the JPEG. I'm not going to even bother cleaning it. Okay, so I should go nuke that, because in here they're cleaned. And let's see if that works. So just to, I'm just going to put junk in here so that when I reload this and inspect, I can see that it's actually outputting the new version. Okay, so there's my junk. And it looks like it's outputting my pictures, otherwise it wouldn't appear. So, cool. Get rid of this. And we go down here and do the same thing to this picture. Except this one, the class, oops. Class name is different. And the images are different. So this is the WebP and the JPEG. And I put some chunk in it again, so when I reload, there it is. That's our new picture rendering. Why isn't it clicking? HTML-FR? What the heck is that? HTML4. Perfect. Okay. And get rid of view. Don't need this. So what's left? Oof, we need to rework this gallery a little bit. But despite looking ugly, it is a gallery. Yeah, these need to be constrained by width and not by width and height. But I can tweak that in a bit. Loves people. In a costume on the desk. Loves boxes. Yeah, this is mostly what I wanted. Okay. Now let's see what the deployment script looks like. It is going to build HTML. Let's push it up, see what happens. So what am I committing? Okay, this works. And I can actually get rid of this index.html. That's gone. Deleted index.html. Here's my site, all on React. Time to commit. It's a feature. So we have our initial render of HTML from React. Okay. Now we will look at our GitHub and our actions. It's already deploying. Now we wait. And we're deployed. So I can click back here and should be able to open this up. See my new deployment. There's the site. Cool. Now every time I change the React page, it should auto update. Oh man, I'm gonna have to set this to lazy load. Well, that'll be for another day. Okay, so I was able to get React to render HTML to a file which I have through my GitHub Actions deployed to an S3 bucket, which is exactly what I was looking for. This is now my custom-built static site generator. It's only a one-page site, just a gallery. It may not be the prettiest thing, but I'm going to go ahead and keep tweaking this. I'm not going to make you sit along with me and watch as I tweak it, because I'm just going to be changing a lot of pixels, moving things around here and there, and that's incredibly boring. But if you want to see the final output of this, I'm going to link the GitHub repo into the description, so follow along there. I'm going to be updating this throughout the week, throughout the month, until I get it to a spot where I'm pretty happy with it. So definitely follow along, check it out and play with it if you want to. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I appreciate you making it all the way to the end, spending your time with me. Obviously, you must like this video, so give it a like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, blast it out on Twitter. My channel's super tiny right now, and every little interaction you can give me helps, and I appreciate it. So thanks for watching. Bye.